Hey everyone, I'm going to go through a quick presentation and demo to go over the non-DKA calculator. So I will share screen. So with the pilot coming on April 8th, next week on Wednesday, we're going live with an updated non-DKA protocol from the Diabetes Task Force. And what we've done is we've coordinated the protocol go live with the calculator rollout. That way we can have the decision support to help support the nurses titrating this new protocol. So what I have on the screen, and this is also available in Policy Manager, is the table for the non-DKA protocol with all the updated recommendations and changes in titrations. There is no significant change for the provider ordering process. They will still use the non-DKA order set, being able to order all the supportive care, the labs, as well as the medications needed. There are no changes for the pharmacist workflow verifying the orders. The major change is going to be for the nurse doing the insulin documentation. Like the DKA calculator, there is now going to be this flow sheet rows where they can now enter in the blood glucose values and get from the lab results, and then get a calculated dose from the calculator that matches the protocol to inform how to titrate. So for example, if we initiate the calculator with a blood glucose of 350, it calculates out an initial dose of 3.5 units per hour. Depending on how the blood glucose changes, you will use the rate verify adjust action, and the titration based on that blood glucose level from the previous rate will then calculate out. So our previous level was 350, we increased to 380, and because it was an increase and it's greater than 241, it increases the rate by 3 units per hour, so it makes a total of 6.5 units per hour. If it was a slight decrease, less than 30 milligram per deciliter, it would only increase it by 2 units per hour, so we get a total of 5.5 units per hour. If it was a greater decrease than 30 milligram per deciliter, we would get no change to the rate instead. One thing I would like to stress here is that if it was a significant decrease down into 110 to 140, so based on this table, if it was a decrease greater than 30 milligram per deciliter, so our original was 350, and if the patient's blood glucose dropped down to the 110 to 140 range, we would have to hold the insulin drip, check blood glucose every hour, and restart the infusion at half the rate when it is greater than 180 milligram per deciliter. So the thing to stress here is that we have a new MAR action called paused insulin, which will be used in this scenario. This MAR action will keep the EPIC order associated to the pump, and it will not disassociate it, so that way the values from the pump can keep flowing into EPIC automatically. This is sort of how it will look in EPIC without interop, but if you have interop enabled and the values are flowing in, we will see two MAR actions. We'll see the one we documented in EPIC as paused insulin, and then we will see the paused action when it is actually paused at the pump. Here's the infusion verify view. So when the infusion is stopped and paused at the pump, you'll have this option to keep the association, so that way when the pump is resumed, the data keeps flowing in. It doesn't automatically disassociate it. When resuming the infusion from a pause, it will have the blood glucose, if it's not above 180, it will tell you to do not accept this administration. Infusion should be held until greater than 180 and to keep rechecking. So you would cancel out of the administration. When the blood glucose is above 180, so 181 or 185 in this example, EPIC will automatically calculate out to the restart at half the rate. Since we were at 3.5 units per hour, it cuts it in half to 1.75, and then it rounds it to the nearest 0.1 unit per hour. So we get 1.8 units per hour, which is what we will input up here. For the MAR action to resume it, you can still use rate dose change or restart it. Either one is appropriate. You would then restart it at the pump. Here's just a different view of how it can kind of look at when you're using it in EPIC and in the pump. We will also have clinical decision support so that way, if the calculator does not match what you're inputting into the MAR for the administration, you can get a warning and either correct it by hitting cancel and adjusting the dose input, or you can accept if it is appropriate to continue at the dose that was deviating from the calculator. So I'm going to switch over into Epic to go through a quick demo, very similar to what we had just in the PowerPoint. So starting with the administration, I do not have a pump, so I'm going to be overriding this alert. I'm just going to put in a line. And here's where we're going to initiate. So for this one, I will initiate it at 425. It rounds it to the nearest 0.1 unit per hour, so we would have 4.3 units. At this point, we will then go up to the dose and enter 4.3, and we will complete the administration. It will prompt for dual sign-off, so the second independent check will need to be done in order to proceed with the administration. Since we're in a test environment, I'm not going to wait the full time to then check the next glucose level, but I will continue to administer it. So here we're going to do the rate dose change. We're going to do the rate verify adjust action in this scenario. And then depending on what value we put in, we will see the different calculations. So if the blood glucose level increased, it will increase it by 3 units per hour. If it's a slight decrease, it increases it a little bit less. If it was a greater than 30 milligram per deciliter decrease, so say it went to 390, it would then instruct to continue with the current rate instead. If for whatever reason it was a precipitous drop, say down to 120, 130, it will then tell us instead to have 0 units per hour, as well as the initial instructions as mentioned earlier. At this point, we would not accept the administration. We would put in first a paused insulin MAR action and then accept, because we are holding the infusion and we want to keep the association for the pump, which is why we're clicking paused insulin. We will then have the dual sign-off. Say we then waited an hour and then are checking the blood glucose and then inputting it again. So here we will continue to document. We will use the resume action. If the blood glucose increased a little bit but isn't at that greater than 180 threshold, it will continue to tell you to do not accept this administration and to recheck in an hour. So at this point, we would cancel out. As soon as it is above 180, so say 181, it will then calculate automatically the rate at half, and you are able to proceed with administration. So here is where we would then go up and document the 2.2 units per hour as calculated as half the previous rate, and we would accept the administration and have the second independent check. If and when you're using pump interrupt, you may see additional MAR actions such as paused insulin and then a paused action when it's actually paused at the pump. That is expected because some of these are going to be generated from Epic and then the other ones are generated from the pump documentation. But all in all, it's very similar to other infusions. It is similar to the DKA calculator and how it works. Just the major thing to stress here is there's a new paused action for certain scenarios where you're holding the infusion. And if there's any issues or mismatches with the calculator versus the protocol, please let us know so that way we can help review and troubleshoot. Thank you for your time.